Welcome to this session of the Workplace Reimagined. My guest today is LeRiche, the Field Technology Officer for Federal Civilian at Palo Alto Networks. Wayne, great to catch up again. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Great to see you again.
Today we're talking a little bit about, as we continue our conversation about how the workplace has changed, the hybrid workforce, the telework, all the pieces and parts that we've been talking about for several years and how it continues to transform. Let's still talk about the idea of how technology and these process improvements can continue to transform the employee experience.
Sure, yeah. I mean, as we move towards a more hybrid workforce, as far as going from strict teleworking to, in the office 3 or 4 days a week, this hybrid work modernization, technology plays an important role with that. Last time we spoke a lot about security, zero trust, efficacy, and things like that, but really the user experience comes into play as well. So what we see is technology and SASE solutions in general can really help with that.
Now, I love the term SASE, right? You're thinking SASSY, but we're going to talk about the SASE, Secure Access Security Edge. Let's quickly, give me 30 seconds or less, define it in case of folks aren't quite familiar with that yet.
So SASE in a nutshell is essentially a method of connecting, users from anywhere to anything. So whether they're working from home, whether they're on the road, whether they're in the office, whether they're at a branch, right? They can connect into the cloud. They have a security stack that they go through. A lot of the zero trust policies are applied, and then they can hit anything, whether it be in the cloud, in the data center, or on the secure, internet.
I hear a lot of CIOs when I talk to, a lot of CISOs who I talk to when I go to events. They're really excited about SASE. And I think they're excited for two reasons, right? It's part of the zero trust architecture. It's part of that kind of security side of it. Sure. But I think they're also excited because of the user experience. And we saw that with the frustrations of the trusted internet connection, early versions of it. Why is SASE, why are we talking about it so much more? Why is there so much excitement around it?
Well, like I said, I think initially when we had the pandemic and there was a lot of shift to telework, there was a necessary need for this type of solution. But now that it's been a few years, we've been able to introduce things like digital experience management, really focusing on the user experience in addition to keeping those users secure, but also providing them that kind of seamless experience. So whether they're working from home or actually get in the car and go to the office, we don't want them to have to go through a different routine. We want it to be very seamless to them. So that's really what we're focused on, and that's what I'm excited about.
And for security, that seamless experience matters so much because if it's problematic, if it's frustrating, I've always heard, well, they'll find a way around it or find a way to be less secure.
For sure.
Why does SASE and some of the pieces and parts that fall under zero trust architecture help make that experience more seamless?
Again, it's because it's taking into a bunch of use cases, right? It's not just a VPN replacement. We're really doing things as far as from a zero trust perspective, like looking at the actual endpoint device. So if you look at M2209, it calls out like device level signaling in addition to positive identification. So we can identify a user, but is that user's device up to par with what it should be for policy? The other piece is, as that user, like I said, when they roam, it's transparent to them. They don't have to log on and log off multiple times. It's the same kind of motion with their, two-factor authentication, CAT card, et cetera. And since there's intelligence built into the agent as well as the SASE cloud for them to know, hey, I'm in the office today, I want to print to this printer, it's going to just work, right? So I think that's the big kind of leap that we have here is really providing that user experience so they don't turn things off.
I love what you said, it's just going to work. And I think with security and really any user experience, digital experience, it just has to work. I don't care how it works, just make it work. I had a great conversation with folks at the Army, Netcom a couple months ago now, and they talked about they're going to get to the point where they could, through SASE, this use of this idea of if you work at this building and now you're going to go to that building or that post-camp station, you'll be able to plug it in and work. And I think that's the other piece to this, that SASE and these types of technologies allow you that mobility that we've always talked about. You're not just going through a VDI that is you can only read, you can't write.
Exactly.
When you talk to the government clients, is that what they're asking for? What are some of the trends you're seeing around, hey, how do we improve that user experience and keep secure?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really the use cases that we're trying to cover are to fit what the government needs. obviously they can get things to work the way they've always done it with VPNs and things of that nature. But as far as kind of the user experience and really tapping into that, what we're finding is there's excitement around the tools that we can give to them. So one thing in particular is something we call ADEM, which is the Autonomous Digital Experience Management. So think of it this way: you have the end client, you have the SASE cloud, which is doing the security inspection and all of that. Then you have the applications out in the cloud. Imagine, if you will, you have what I call a mean time to innocence tool. So the operator of the SASE cloud can actually see, since I have some intelligence on the endpoint, I can see like this user has a bad Wi-Fi connection, or they have a memory problem on their PC. I can kind of be proactive about, talking to those guys when they put in a ticket. Or I can look at the kind of the whole path to say, the network, the ISP, the SASE cloud, and the application. Where does the problem actually lie? So from an operator's perspective, it makes things easier as far as if I know there's an outage with a specific ISP in a certain region, I can be proactive and kind of, help cut off some of those tickets that are going to be opened.
Does the move to SASE and similar tools require an agency to say, oh, I have to be 90% in the cloud, 100% in the cloud? Can they have that hybrid setup with kind of some in the cloud, some in the data center? Does it work in both ways?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the solution. It's really to fit multiple use cases. So even if an agency is mostly still in a data center, that's where the VPN replacement piece comes in. So again, we're looking at different use cases with the same kind of setup, the same agent and the same SASE cloud, being able to connect into that data center or to the cloud as they move workloads to the cloud, and providing that zero trust regardless of where that application lives.
Let's hope not a lot of people are still mostly in the data center. We've been talking about cloud now for a few years.
Yeah.
But still, I was just actually talking with someone someone from NIH recently, and they mentioned, hey, we have so much big data that we have a lot of still high performance computing. That's a whole different discussion. The other piece is, let's broaden this out. SASE is a piece of zero trust, the zero trust journey that a lot of agencies are on. We know that there's a bunch of deadlines coming up in September, and then there's a push for DoD across into 2027. How does this all kind of also fit together from a zero trust perspective, not just SASE, but the user experience? For sure.
Again, we know that from, the wisdom is that zero trust is not a product. It's really an architecture or kind of an approach to your enterprise. And SASE is one piece, but it does bring in a lot of elements of zero trust, meaning that not only do we have the multi-factor authentication and kind of the identity piece, but we're also looking again at that endpoint, right? So we can make sure that, let's say it's make sure that it's a GFE device, and we can make sure that they have their CAC card, and we can make sure that they have their anti-malware and antivirus on the machine resident and up to date before we allow them to connect. And then the notion of zero trust with continuous inspection, this all ties together where you can't do that with a legacy VPN type service.
I think that's the key when we talk about zero trust, the continuous, right? Not just Wayne authenticated today, he's good for today. It's Wayne authenticates every time that you are able to, hey, I want this application, I want this data.
Right.
And I think that's where you're getting. When you talk with your government clients, what are some of those big challenges that they're still facing today to either implement SASE or implement the pieces and parts that kind of would kind of build that SASE environment?
I mean, there's always challenges when you kind of shift away from technology to something new. And of course, there's every implementation is going to have some type of challenges, but a lot of times it's just really every agency is very different. Some folks use different types of authentication methods and things of that nature. So I think the main thing is to really take it in kind of granular steps. One of the things that we do to kind of help with that pain is say, I treat it as a dial rather than a switch. We're not switching everybody over to this day one. You can start with a subset of users, kind of do your pilots, and then work out those kinks and then start to migrate users over.
We've got about a minute or so left, and I think what's important here is as agencies continue to work in this hybrid world, again, as you said at the beginning, a couple days a week in the office, a couple days a week at home, travel we know has come back, people are traveling more. What's a big takeaway from our conversation today as they look forward into the future and they continue to say, okay, we got to have security, we got to have good user experience. achieving that balance, what's your best advice for them?
My advice is really to not just look at SASE as kind of the end-all be-all, really look at the different vendors' offerings and see how they work in a hybrid environment. The reason I say that is because with Palo Alto's solution, it, again, is very transparent as far as to the user. Imagine that you turn your machine on, it's already kind of connected. You go to the office, there's no kind of break in that. There's some intelligence there to say, I'm on the local LAN. I'm not going to go to the VPN in the cloud. I'm going to be right here. So that's one takeaway I would say is like just make sure that you investigate the different type of solutions and what they really mean for hybrid.
And how they can fit into your environment, because as you said, all environments are a little different.
Exactly, yes.
All right. Wayne, I very much enjoyed our conversation. Unfortunately, we're out of time for this section of the Workplace Reimagined. So let me thank my guest. Wayne LeRiche is the Field Chief Technology Officer for Federal Civilian at Palo Alto Networks. Wayne, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Jason.
I'm Jason Miller, and you're watching Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to the studio